Melody Carter had been blind since birth. She lived in a small apartment in New Boston Colony on Mars. What she lacked in sight, she made up for in hearing. Her ears could pick up sounds others missed. Her fingers knew how to find their way across any surface. At 22, Melody worked as a communications technician at the Interplanetary Communications Authority. Her job was to listen for problems in transmissions between Mars and Earth. The computers missed many things that her ears could catch. No one at work knew about her secret passion. Every night, she went home to play her old keyboard. She had brought it from Earth before everyone had to leave. It was old and simple compared to the new musical devices, but she loved it. The newer instruments had fancy features that connected to people's brains, but Melody preferred her basic keyboard. It felt real to her. "You are wasting your time," her boss Gerald Franklin once told her. He had come to her apartment to bring her some work files and heard her playing. The Harmonic Initiative only takes people who went to famous music schools on Earth, and they want musicians who can see how the audience feels when they play. The Harmonic Initiative was the biggest music program on Mars. It started 50 years after humans had to move from Earth to Mars. The program helped people who felt sad about leaving Earth behind. The music connected them to their old home and made them feel better. Melody didn't argue with Gerald. She just nodded and waited for him to leave. Then she went back to playing. She didn't care what he thought. Music was the one thing that made her feel whole. One evening at work, while checking the usual signals between colonies, Melody noticed something strange. A new pattern came through her headphones. It wasn't like the normal communications she monitored every day. This signal had a rhythm to it, almost like music, but not quite. "I should report this," she said to herself. Her fingers hovered over the alert button. That was the rule when unusual signals came through. But something stopped her. The pattern felt special, important somehow. Instead of reporting it, she recorded the signal and saved it to her personal device. She would study it later when she was alone. That night in her apartment, Melody sat at her keyboard. She played the strange pattern she had heard, copying it note for note. The sounds filled her small room. As the final notes hung in the air, something unusual happened. She felt a connection to the music that she had never felt before. Without thinking, her fingers began to move across the keys again. She started adding to the alien melody, mixing in bits of old Earth songs she knew. Bach, Mozart, and other great composers from long ago. The mix shouldn't have worked, but somehow it did. It created something new and beautiful. What Melody didn't know was that her neighbor was listening. Diane Powell lived next door. The walls between apartments were thin. Diane worked as a junior administrator for the Harmonic Initiative. Her job wasn't important, just filing papers and scheduling meetings. But she knew good music when she heard it. Diane stood with her ear pressed against the wall, amazed at what she was hearing. She had attended many Harmonic Initiative concerts, but nothing like this. This blind girl was playing music that made her feel things she couldn't explain. The next morning, Diane waited by the front door of the building. When Melody came out with her cane tapping in front of her, Diane spoke up. "That was beautiful," she said. "What you played last night." Melody stopped, surprised. "You heard me?" "The walls are thin," Diane explained. "I've never heard anything like it." "How did you learn to play like that?" Melody shrugged. "I just play what I feel." "Do you know who I work for?" Diane asked. "No. The Harmonic Initiative. I'm just an administrator, but I know talent when I hear it." Melody started walking, again her cane sweeping from side to side. "Good for you." Diane followed her. "Don't you get it? You should be playing for them, not just for yourself in your apartment." Melody laughed without humor. "They don't take blind people. Everyone knows that. Maybe they would make an exception if they heard you play." "I doubt it," Melody said. "Besides, I like my job. I'm good at it." "But you could be great at music," Diane insisted. "You already are." For the next few weeks, Diane kept bringing it up whenever they met in the hallway or outside the building. Each time, Melody found a way to end the conversation quickly. She didn't want to hope for something that could never happen. Meanwhile, at night, she kept working on her new composition. The alien melody she had heard at work became the foundation. Around it, she built a musical story. It was the story of humanity from Earth to Mars told through sound rather than words. She named it Signals from Home, though she wasn't sure why. It just felt right. 3 weeks after Diane first heard her playing, Melody found an envelope stuck under her door when she came home from work. Her name was written on the front in large letters that she could feel with her fingertips. She opened it and found a card inside. It had been printed with raised letters so she could read it with her fingers. "You have been invited to audition for the Harmonic Initiative," it said. "Next Tuesday, 2 p.m., Olympus Mons Cultural Center." Melody sat down hard on her couch, the card still in her hand. This couldn't be real. She had never applied. Then she realized what had happened. "Diane," she whispered. Just then, a knock came at her door. "Did you get it?" Diane's voice called from the hallway. Melody got up and opened the door. "What did you do?" "I submitted your name," Diane said, her voice excited, "and I sent them a recording I made through the wall. It wasn't great quality, but it was good. Enough. They want to hear you play in person. You recorded me without asking?" Melody felt a mix of anger and fear. "I'm sorry, but I knew you would never do it yourself. This is your chance, don't you see?" "No, I don't see," Melody said sharply, then softened her tone. "Sorry, bad joke, but seriously, why did you do this?" "Because the world needs to hear what you can do," Diane said simply. Melody shook her head. "They'll never accept me once they see I'm blind." "They don't need to know until you're there," Diane said. "By then it will be too late. They'll have to let you play. And once they hear you..." She let the sentence hang. Melody thought about it. The idea was terrifying but also exciting. Could she really play in front of people? What if they laughed at her? "I don't know," she said. "Just think about it," Diane urged. "You have a few days to decide." That night, Melody barely slept. She kept thinking about the audition. It was her secret dream to play for others, but she had never thought it could happen. Now the door was open a crack, and she had to decide whether to push through or let it close forever. By morning, she had made up her mind. She would go to the audition. Even if they rejected her because she was blind, at least she would have tried. Better to try and fail than to always wonder what might have been. "I'll do it," she told Diane when they met in the hallway the next morning. "But I'm playing my own music, not the classical pieces they probably expect." Diane hugged her, which took Melody by surprise. "You're going to amaze them," Diane said. "Or embarrass myself completely," Melody added. But for the first time in her life, she was willing to take that chance. The day of the audition arrived. Melody woke up early, too nervous to sleep. Her stomach felt tight as she got ready. She chose her best clothes, a simple blue dress that Diane had helped her pick out. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean and neat. "You look nice," Diane said when she came to take Melody to the audition. Diane had taken the day off work to help. "Thanks," Melody said. Her voice shook a little. "I think I'm going to be sick." "That's just nerves," Diane said. "Everyone feels that way before something important." They took the underground train to the Olympus Mons Cultural Center. It was the biggest music hall on Mars, built to look like the famous concert halls back on Earth. Melody had never been there before. As they walked in, she could feel how large the space was from the way sounds echoed. "It's huge," she whispered. "And almost full," Diane whispered back. "There are at least 30 judges here today." Melody's heart beat faster. 30 people would hear her play. 30 people would judge whether she was good enough. They sat in a waiting area with other musicians. Melody could hear people tuning instruments and practicing quietly. She held her cane tightly in her hands. A woman with a clipboard came over. "Melody Carter?" she asked. "That's me," Melody said. "You're number 15. It will be about an hour before your turn." That hour was the longest of Melody's life. She listened as each musician went in, played, and came out. Some looked happy. Others looked like they might cry. Melody tried to prepare herself for disappointment. Finally, her name was called. Diane squeezed her hand. You can do this, Diane said. Melody stood up, unfolded her cane, and followed the woman with the clipboard. As she walked onto the stage, she heard whispers start in the audience. Is she blind? How can she play if she can't see? This must be a mistake. The woman led Melody to the piano in the center of the stage. It was a real Steinway grand piano, one of the few brought from Earth. Melody had never played on anything so fine. Ms. Carter, a man's voice said from the audience. I am Vincent Gray, director of the Harmonic Initiative. Melody knew that name. Vincent Gray had been Earth's most famous pianist before everyone had to leave for Mars. Now he ran the Harmonic Initiative and rarely performed himself. Hello, Mr. Gray, she said, turning toward his voice. Are you aware, he continued, his voice cold, that our performances involve visual cues? The pianist must watch the conductor and respond to audience reactions. I am aware, Melody said. And you still think you can perform at our level? Yes, I do. A short laugh came from Vincent Gray's direction. It wasn't a kind laugh. What will you be playing for us today? He asked. My own composition, Melody replied. It's called Signals from Home. This time several people laughed. Vincent Gray spoke again, his voice dripping with disbelief. An original composition? From someone who can't even see the keys properly? This should be entertaining. Melody's face grew hot with shame. She had expected some doubt but not open mockery. For a moment she thought about leaving, just picking up her cane and walking out. But then she thought of all the nights she had, played alone in her apartment. She thought of the strange signal she had heard and the music she had created from it. That music deserved to be heard even if people laughed at her. She sat down at the piano and found the keys with her fingers. They felt cool and smooth. Better than her old keyboard at home. Whenever you're ready, Vincent Gray said. Or should I say, if you're ready? More laughter followed. Melody took a deep breath and closed her eyes. Not that it made any difference to her, but it helped her focus. Then she began to play. The first notes were soft and uncertain, like early morning light. Then the music began to grow, becoming stronger and more complex. She played the melody she had heard in the strange signal, then began to add to it, weaving in pieces of old Earth music that everyone knew. As she played, the room grew quiet. No more whispers, no more laughs. Just silence, and her music, filling the great hall. Melody forgot where she was. She forgot about Vincent Gray and his mockery. She forgot about the 30 judges watching her. She just played, letting the music flow from her fingers like water. The notes rose and fell, telling a story without words. It was a story of loss and hope, of an old home left behind and a new one being built. It was humanity's story, but also Melody's own. When she reached the end of the piece, her fingers rested on the final chord for a long moment. Then she lifted them from the keys and waited. The silence stretched on. No one spoke. No one clapped. Melody began to worry. Had she played badly? Were they all just feeling sorry for the blind girl who thought she could be a real musician? Then she heard footsteps coming toward the stage. Someone was walking up to her. In 40 years of music, Vincent Gray's voice came from right beside her now, sounding completely different than before. It was thick with emotion. I have never been so wrong about someone. A hand touched her shoulder gently. Ms. Carter, what you just played wasn't just music. It was communication. It spoke directly to the heart in a way I haven't heard since Earth. More footsteps approached the stage, more people gathering around her. How did you compose that? A woman's voice asked. The structure is unlike anything I've heard before. Melody wasn't sure how to answer. Should she tell them about the strange signal she had heard at work? Would she get in trouble for not reporting it? Before she could decide, Vincent Gray spoke. Again, it doesn't matter how she composed it. What matters is that we found her. Or rather, she found us, despite my narrow mind. He took Melody's hand and helped her stand up. Ms. Carter, we would be honored if you would join the Harmonic Initiative. Not as a student, but as a performer. Melody couldn't believe what she was hearing. Really, was all she could say. Really, Vincent confirmed. Your music is exactly what we've been missing. It's fresh and new, but also connects to our past. It's extraordinary. A woman pushed forward through the small crowd around the piano. And I'd like to study the composition itself. I'm Dr. Susan Kim, head of musical theory at Mars University. The mathematical structure of your piece is fascinating. Melody felt overwhelmed. This morning she had been just a communications technician with a hopeless dream. Now people were talking about her music as if it was something important. I need to think, she said. This is all happening very fast. Of course, Vincent said. Take all the time you need. But please consider our offer seriously. As Diane led her off the stage, people kept stopping Melody to introduce themselves and praise her playing. It was too much to take in at once. What just happened? She whispered to Diane when they finally made it back to the waiting area. You showed them, Diane said, her voice proud. You showed them all. They took the train home in silence. Melody was lost in thought, trying to make sense of the day's events. Her life had just changed completely, and she wasn't sure if she was ready. Back at her apartment, Diane helped her make tea. They sat together at Melody's small table. What are you going to do? Diane asked finally. Melody wrapped her hands around her warm mug. I don't know. Playing for the initiative would be a dream come true. But what? There's something I didn't tell them, about where the music came from. What do you mean? Diane asked. Melody sighed. The main melody, the one everything else is built around. I heard it at work. It came through on a signal I was monitoring. From another colony? No, Melody said. I don't think it was from any human source at all. Diane stared at Melody with wide eyes. Not from humans? What do you mean? I can't explain it, Melody said. But the signal didn't match any known human pattern. It came from somewhere else. Like aliens? Diane whispered. Melody shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe just some natural space phenomenon that happens to sound like music. Either way, you should tell Vincent Gray, Diane said. This could be important. Melody agreed, but she was afraid. Would they think she made it all up? Would she get in trouble for not reporting the signal right away? Would she lose her job at the Communications Authority? The next morning, Melody went to work as usual. She sat at her monitoring station and put on her headphones. But instead of the usual signals between Mars colonies, she heard only silence. Carter, a voice said behind her. It was Gerald Franklin, her boss. My office now. Melody followed him, her heart beating fast. Had he found out about the signal she didn't report? In his office, Gerald didn't sound angry. He sounded excited. Why didn't you tell me you could play like that? What? Melody was confused. Your audition yesterday. It's all over the news feeds. Blind Communications Tech Stuns Harmonic Initiative. Vincent Gray himself called me this morning. Oh, Melody said. I didn't think it would be news. Not news? The great Vincent Gray admitting he was wrong about something? That's bigger news than the signal we picked up from Proxima Centauri last year. Melody froze. Signal from Proxima. Centauri? Yes, a repeating pattern we couldn't decode. The scientists are still working on it, but that's not important right now. Vincent Gray wants you to start working with the initiative immediately. He's offering to buy out your contract. With us. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. You're not mad? Gerald laughed. Mad? I'm thrilled. One of my team members is going to be famous. Makes me look good as a manager. There's something I need to tell you, Melody said. About my music. She explained about the strange signal she had heard and how she used it in her composition. As she talked, Gerald grew serious. When exactly did you hear this signal? He asked. About a month ago. Night shift. Gerald was quiet for a long time. Then he picked up his phone. I need to make some calls. Wait here. While he was gone, Melody sat nervously in his office. What would happen now? Would they arrest her for keeping the signal secret? An hour later, Gerald returned. He wasn't alone. With him was a tall man whose footsteps Melody didn't recognize. "Ms. Carter," the man said. "I'm Dr. William Cook from the Mars Science Academy. I'd like to talk to you about the signal you heard." Dr. Cook asked many questions. When did she hear it? What did it sound like? Could she play it on a keyboard? Melody answered as best she could. "This is remarkable," Dr. Cook said when she finished. "The pattern you describe matches signals we've been receiving from the Proxima Centauri system for decades. But no one ever thought to interpret them as music before. We've been trying to decode them as language." "So it is aliens?" Melody asked. "We can't say for sure," Dr. Cook replied. "But it seems likely that whatever sent these signals communicates through musical patterns rather than words." Gerald spoke. "Force, what do we do now?" "Now," Dr. Cook said, "we need Ms. Carter to help us create a response." The next few days were a blur. Melody was moved from her small apartment to a special facility where she worked with both Dr. Cook's science team and Vincent Gray from the Harmonic Initiative. She played the alien melody for them many times. Scientists recorded and analyzed it, while musicians tried to understand its structure. "It's not like human music," Vincent said after listening to Melody play it again. "But it's not random either. There's a pattern, a logic to it." "Could you create a response?" Dr. Cook asked. "Something that shows we understand their message and want to communicate," Melody thought about it. "I think so, but I would need to combine their style with ours, to show that we hear them, but are also sharing our own voice." "That's exactly what you did in your audition piece," Vincent said. "You wove the alien melody together with human musical traditions." "I didn't know what I was doing then," Melody admitted. "I just played what felt right. Sometimes that's the best way," Vincent said. Melody began working on a new composition. This time she wasn't just playing for herself or even for human listeners. She was creating humanity's first conscious message to another intelligent species. It was terrifying and exciting at the same time. She worked day and night. Vincent helped her refine the composition, suggesting ways to make the human elements clearer while keeping the alien melody intact. "It needs to tell our story," Melody explained during one late session. "Who we are, where we've been, what we hope for." "And what do we hope for?" Vincent asked softly. Melody thought about it. "Connection, understanding, to know we're not alone." After 2 weeks of work, the composition was ready. The Mars Global Council arranged a special concert where Melody would perform it. The concert would be broadcast to every colony on Mars and back to Earth as well. They would also send the music directly into space, aimed at the Proxima Centauri system. The night before the concert, Melody couldn't sleep. She sat at the piano in her new apartment playing softly. A knock came at her door. It was Vincent. "Nervous?" he asked as he came in. "Terrified," Melody admitted. "That's normal," he said. "I've been performing for 50 years and I still get nervous before important concerts." "This is more than just a concert," Melody said. "What if they don't understand our message? What if they think we're threatening them somehow?" Vincent sat beside her on the piano bench. "Music speaks to something deeper than words. Even when human cultures couldn't understand each other's languages, they could appreciate each other's music. But this isn't another human culture," Melody pointed out. "It's something completely different." "Is it?" Vincent asked. "They sent us music. We're sending music back. That suggests we have something in common, doesn't it?" Melody nodded slowly. "I suppose it does." "Play me the beginning again," Vincent requested. "The part where you introduce the human theme." Melody placed her fingers on the keys and began to play. The notes filled the room, telling humanity's story without words. From Earth's ancient civilizations through the great classical composers, to the desperate journey to Mars and the struggle to build a new home. When she finished, Vincent was quiet for a moment. "It's perfect," he said finally. "You've captured our essence, our journey. If they have any capacity to understand emotion, they'll feel what we've been through." "I hope so," Melody said. Vincent stood to leave. At the door, he paused. I owe you an apology, Melody, for how I treated you at the audition. You've already apologized, she said. Not properly. I was cruel because I was narrow-minded. I couldn't imagine that someone different from me could have something valuable to offer. And now? Now I know better, he said. Tomorrow you'll make history. Not in spite of your differences, but because of them. Your unique perspective let you hear what the rest of us missed. After Vincent left, Melody sat at her piano for a long time, thinking about his words. Tomorrow she would play for the biggest audience of her life, and for listeners not even of this world. The thought was overwhelming, but when she placed her fingers on the keys and began to play, all fear faded away. The music carried her, as it always had. Tomorrow she would share that music with the universe, and perhaps, somewhere among the stars, someone would hear and understand. The day of the concert arrived. Melody woke early and spent a long time just sitting on the edge of her bed. Today everything would change. For her, for everyone. A car came to take her to the Olympus Mons Cultural Center. Dr. Cook and Vincent were already there when she arrived. How are you feeling? Vincent asked. Ready, I think, Melody replied. Her hands were steady, which surprised her. Dr. Cook led them through the building to a special room behind the stage. Inside were screens showing Earth and the other Mars colonies. Millions of people would be watching. We have set up special equipment to send your music to Proxima Centauri, Dr. Cook explained. It will take over 4 years for the signal to reach them, so we won't know if they respond right away. 4 years, Melody repeated. It seemed so long to wait. But we'll be here when they do respond, Vincent said. He sounded certain they would. Technicians came to wire the piano with special microphones. These would capture every note exactly and send the sound into space. Melody sat quietly while they worked around her. As the time for the concert grew near, she could hear the hall filling with people. Footsteps, voices, the rustling of clothes. So many people. 5 minutes, someone called. Vincent squeezed her shoulder. Just play like you did in rehearsal. Forget about the audience, forget about the aliens. Just let the music speak. Melody nodded. Then it was time. She walked onto the stage, her cane tapping softly. The audience grew quiet as she made her way to the piano. She could feel thousands of eyes watching her. She sat down, took a deep breath, and placed her hands on the keys. For a moment, she hesitated. The weight of what she was about to do pressed down on her. Then she thought of the strange signal she had heard, of the unknown beings who had sent their music across the stars. She began to play. The first note hung in the air, a single sound representing the beginning of everything. Then came more notes, faster and more complex, like stars and planets forming. She played the history of Earth, the rise of human civilization, the great achievements and terrible mistakes. She played the desperate journey to Mars when Earth could no longer support human life. She played the struggle to build a new home on the red planet. And then she introduced the alien melody, weaving it into humanity's story. The two musical traditions danced together, separate but connected, like two species reaching across the void of space. As she played, something strange began to happen. The lights in the concert hall started to change. They pulsed in time with her music, creating patterns above the stage. Melody couldn't see this, but she could hear the audience's reaction. Gasps and murmurs rose from the crowd. "Keep playing," Vincent whispered from nearby. "Something amazing is happening," Melody continued, her fingers finding each note perfectly. The music built toward its climax, human and alien themes fully joined, now in a powerful harmony. As she struck the final chord, a new sound filled the hall. It came from all the speakers at once. It was the alien melody, but with subtle changes, as if in response to what she had just played. The audience was completely silent. No one moved or spoke. Then Dr. Cook rushed onto the stage. "It's impossible," he said, his voice shaking. "We're receiving a new signal from Proxima Centauri. Right now. In real time." But you said it would take 4 years for our message to reach them, Melody said. It should, Dr. Cook replied. This can't be a response to what you just played. And yet, the alien melody continued, shifting and changing, incorporating elements of Melody's composition. It was beautiful and strange, and undeniably a response. They're already here, Vincent said quietly. Somewhere in our solar system. They must have sent probes or ships. They've been listening to us for a long time. The alien music faded away. In its place came a new pattern, simpler but clearly related to the first. What are they saying? Someone asked. Melody listened carefully. I think they're inviting us to continue the conversation. Over the next few days, scientists and musicians worked together to understand the alien response. They analyzed every note, every pattern, looking for meaning. Melody was at the center of it all. She was the only one who could play the music in a way that seemed to connect with the aliens. When she played, they responded. When others tried, the aliens stayed silent. Vincent worked closely with her, helping her develop new compositions that asked questions through music. Where are you? Who are you? What do you want from us? Slowly, the musical conversation grew. Each exchange revealed more about the aliens. They seemed peaceful. Their music spoke of harmony and balance. I think they want to meet us, Melody told Vincent after one session. Their latest response included a repeating pattern that feels like an invitation. Are we ready for that? Vincent wondered. I don't think we have a choice, Melody replied. They're already here. The Mars Global Council held emergency meetings. Some people were afraid. What if the aliens were dangerous? Others were excited. First contact with another intelligent species would change everything. In the end, they decided to take the risk. They would agree to meet the aliens, but where? How? The answer came in the next musical exchange. The aliens sent a melody that contained mathematical coordinates. When scientists worked them out, they pointed to a location on Mars in a remote region far from any colony. They want to meet there, Dr. Cook explained to Melody. In 1 week. Will I go? She asked. You have to, Vincent said. You're our best communicator with them. Melody wasn't sure how she felt about this. She had started all this by accident, by hearing a strange signal and turning it into music. Now she would be the first human to meet beings from another world. The night before the planned meeting, she couldn't sleep. Vincent came to check on her. Scared? He asked. Yes, she admitted. What if I make a mistake? What if I somehow cause a problem between our species? That won't happen, Vincent said firmly. You understand them better than anyone, even if you don't realize it. Your music reached across the stars and touched them. Trust that connection. Melody nodded, but she wasn't convinced. I keep thinking about something. Why me? Why did they choose me to hear their signal? Maybe they didn't, Vincent said. Maybe it was chance. Or maybe they've been sending signals for years and you were just the first one to recognize it as music instead of noise. That's what bothers me, Melody said. What if we've been missing their messages all this time because we were listening wrong? How many other voices might be out there that we aren't hearing? Vincent had no answer for that. He just sat with her in silence for a while. The next morning, a small team prepared to leave for the meeting site. Melody, Dr. Cook, Vincent, and a few security officers boarded a transport vehicle. They carried no weapons, just communication, equipment, and Melody's portable keyboard. As they flew over the Martian landscape, Melody felt strangely calm. Whatever happened next, humanity would never be the same. They were about to meet their cosmic neighbors, and she would be there to hear their music in person. For a blind girl who once thought she would never leave her small apartment, it was an incredible journey. The universe, it seemed, had been listening for her all along. The transport vehicle landed in a flat, empty area of the Martian surface. Nothing seemed special about this place, just red dust and rocks as far as anyone could see. Are we sure this is right? One of the security officers asked. Dr. Cook checked his device. These are the exact coordinates they sent. They set up their equipment outside the vehicle. Melody's keyboard was connected to speakers that would play her music both inside their protective suits and out into the thin Martian air. "Now we wait," Vincent said. They didn't wait long. About 20 minutes after they landed, a soft humming sound filled the air. It grew louder, coming from all directions at once. "Look," Dr. Cook whispered, pointing. Melody couldn't see, but the others described it to her. The air about 50 feet away was shimmering like heat waves rising from hot ground. Then something began to take shape. Not a ship, as they had expected, but a kind of doorway made of light. "It looks like a door, opening between here and somewhere else," Vincent said. The humming changed, becoming more musical. It was the alien melody that Melody had first heard, but richer and more complex. "They're here," Melody said. "They're waiting for us to respond." She placed her fingers on the keyboard and began to play. She started with the same musical theme she had used in the concert, humanity's story told through sound. As she played, the doorway of light grew brighter. Then something stepped through. The security officers moved closer to Melody, but they didn't raise their weapons. They had been told this was a peaceful meeting. "What do they look like?" Melody asked, still playing. "Not like anything I expected," Vincent replied. His voice was filled with wonder. "They're tall, maybe 7 feet. Their bodies look like they're made of light but solid somehow. They don't have faces, just smooth, rounded heads that glow brighter than the rest of them." 3 of the light beings walked toward the human group. They moved gracefully, almost like they were floating just above the ground. When they were about 10 feet away, they stopped. One of them raised what looked like an arm, though it had no hand or fingers. The arm pointed at Melody's keyboard. "I think they want you to keep playing," Dr. Cook said. Melody nodded and continued her composition. As she played, the light beings began to glow in patterns that matched her music. Their bodies pulsed with colors that changed with each note. Then, they began to make sounds. Not with mouths, since they didn't have any, but somehow their entire bodies created tones that joined with Melody's music. They were playing along with her, adding their own parts to the composition. It was the most beautiful thing any of the humans had ever heard. The alien music complemented Melody's playing perfectly, as if they had rehearsed together for years. When the piece ended, both human and alien musicians were silent for a moment. Then the aliens began a new melody. It was similar to the ones they had sent before, but with elements of human music woven in. "They're inviting you to join them," Vincent whispered. "It's your turn." Melody listened carefully, then began to play, along with the aliens. Their musical conversation continued back and forth, each response building on what came before. As they played, something unexpected happened. Images began to appear in the minds of all the humans present. Not like normal seeing, but like dreams or memories. "I can see their world," Dr. Cook gasped. "A planet circling Proxima Centauri. It's beautiful." "I see it too," Vincent said. And Melody, who had never seen anything in her life, suddenly found herself experiencing vision through the aliens' music. She saw a world of crystal forests and oceans that glowed with inner light. She saw cities built from materials that changed shape with musical commands. She saw the aliens in their true home, communicating entirely through sound. "I can see," she whispered, her fingers never leaving the keyboard. "I can see their world." The musical conversation continued for hours. Through it, the humans learned much about the light beings. They were peaceful explorers who had been studying Earth and Mars for centuries. They communicated primarily through music and could travel through space using doorways like the one they had created here. They had been sending signals to humans for generations, hoping someone would understand them as music rather than random noise. When they heard Melody's composition broadcast into space, they knew humans were finally ready to meet them. As the Martian day began to end, the light being's music changed. It became slower, softer, like a goodbye. "They're leaving," Vincent said, "but I think they'll be back." The light beings backed away toward their doorway. Before stepping through, one of them moved close to Melody. It reached out its glowing arm and touched her keyboard with what would have been a finger if it had hands. The keyboard glowed briefly with the same light that made up the aliens' bodies. Then the light being stepped back and joined the others. They passed through the doorway, which shimmered once more and then vanished. Melody sat very still, her hands resting on her keyboard. "They changed it somehow," she said. "The keyboard feels different." When they returned to the colony, scientists examined the keyboard. It was no longer just a simple instrument. The aliens had altered it, adding technology no human understood. When Melody played it now, the music created visual patterns in the air, visible to everyone. Her music became both sound and light. In the months that followed, more meetings took place between humans and the light beings. A new field of study emerged combining music and astronomy, called astroharmonics. Melody became its first professor at Mars University. The light beings shared their musical technology with humans. It helped clean the air on Earth, making it possible for people to start moving back. It created new forms of medicine and communication. Most importantly, it helped humans see that they were not alone in the universe. 5 years after the first meeting, a special concert was held to celebrate the ongoing friendship between the two species. Melody, now famous throughout the human colonies, was the featured performer. With her was Vincent Gray, who had become her close friend and fellow researcher in astroharmonics. As they prepared backstage, Vincent looked at Melody with pride. "Did you ever imagine when you first heard that signal where it would lead?" Melody shook her head. "Never. I just thought it was beautiful music that needed to be heard." "That's why they chose you," Vincent said. "Not because you heard them, but because you listened." When they walked onto the stage, the audience cheered. Among the humans were several light beings, their bodies glowing softly in the dimmed hall. Melody sat at her special keyboard, the one the aliens had changed. Vincent sat at a regular piano beside her. Together, they began to play. As the music filled the hall, light patterns formed above the stage, showing scenes from both Earth and the light beings' home world. The images merged and separated, just as the two musical traditions did in their composition. Melody, who had once been mocked for being blind, now created visions that amazed all who could see. Her fingers, which had once tapped uncertainly with a cane, now moved with confidence across the keys, building bridges between worlds. And somewhere in the audience, Diane watched with tears in her eyes, remembering the day she had heard her neighbor playing through the thin walls of their apartment building, and decided to submit that neighbor's name for an audition. Sometimes the greatest journeys begin with the smallest steps. Sometimes a single note can change the universe. And sometimes those who are thought to have the least to offer have the most important gifts of all.